The next activity we're going to explore for working with colored pencils is mixing complements. So this is a really effective strategy for adding depth and dimension and shadows to your work without having to revert to using black. People are under the misperception that black is the only way to add depth and darkness to a drawing, and they always kind of instinctively gravitate to black to add in shadows. But black is a color that is very flat and very kind of one-dimensional. There are lots of other ways to add shadow and to add kind of value to your colored pencil work without using black, and mixing complements is a really effective way to do that. So in this exercise, we're going to set up 3 boxes, 3 rectangles. Each rectangle is going to be divided into 3. The little stencil I have is 3 inches by 1 inch, and then just divide it up so you have 3 roughly even boxes. If you're at home, feel free to just freehand it, but don't work too small. You do want to have enough space to actually show what happens when you mix these colors together. So you will need these specific colors of colored pencil. So as you're kind of looking through your set, just make sure that you're selecting the right colored pencil. The names on the Prismacolors are printed both in English and in French, so just make sure you're reading the right one if you're having trouble finding anything. As I do these, the box on the far side is going to be just that pure color, in this case red and green. The box in the middle will be layered with both red and green. Now we call this mixing complements because complementary colors are the colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So red is furthest away from green. And when you think about it, green is a secondary color that is made from mixing yellow and blue. So essentially what we're doing when we're mixing complements is we are completing the primary triad. When I mix red with green, which is made from yellow and blue, I am basically mixing yellow, red, and blue all together. So I'm completing, that's the root of that word complement, the 3 primary kind of triad, or that 3 grouping of 3 colors. In the case of red and green, both red and green are kind of equally strong, so it will be kind of a 50-50 mix. And you can go back and forth over this a couple times, just so you end up with a color that looks not as dark. You're not pressing down with all of your strength, but you want it to be a fairly even saturated version of red and version of green. And then in the middle, it should be about even 50-50 between the red and the green. Looking at that mixture that you made in the center, you'll see this could be a really effective way to shadow something that is green, or to show shadow or value on an object that's red. It has much more depth and dimension than if I had just pulled out a black colored pencil though. There's a lot of vibrancy, there's a lot going on, there's complexity in that color, instead of just sucking all the light out of it, which is kind of what happens with black. I'm now going to move on to my yellow and my violet. So I'm using canary yellow and violet for the purple. Now yellow is a very kind of weak color, so you will want to start with the yellow, lay down a fairly strong layer of it. This mixture is going to be more yellow and less violet. So don't go too aggressive with the violet too quickly. Again, you don't want to dominate. It shouldn't look like violet with a little bit of yellow. It should be each color represented evenly. So again, the complementary pair with yellow and violet. Violet is made up, the secondary color that's made when you mix blue and red. So essentially with this, I'm mixing yellow, red, and blue again to create this complementary or completing that triad of colors. You can go over this a couple times, again, to the point where you have a nice blending or mixture of both of those colors, like that. Okay. The final set of complementary color mixing that I'm going to be doing is using orange and blue. I'm using the ultramarine pencil for blue. Again, orange is slightly weaker than blue, so you're going to want to start with the orange first, lay down a fairly good layer of the orange, and just be light and careful as you're layering the blue on top of it. Don't go too dark too quickly. You can see in all of these examples, I've been layering my shading, both going vertically and horizontally, so it looks nice and smooth and even. I'm being careful to generally stay inside the boundaries and the lines. If one color is appearing too dominant or too harsh, just add the more of the opposite color on top of it until you've built up a good blend between those colors. And again, with all of these colors, you can see how they would be really effective to add shadow and shading instead of using a black pencil. Okay, so that's the strategy for completing the mix and complements skill.